I'm the least romantic human being you will ever meet in your life. I think the way we should understand love, because it is such an extraordinary force, is that love is what God feels like to us while we are in the human form. We have no other way to experience love except with each other. So we have contracts to love each other, to make this journey from our love of power and stuff and things and junk to actually getting the power of love and realize every time I act from love, something good comes from it.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. One of the things this show keeps coming back to is this idea that real love starts with knowing yourself. Therapy has been a huge part of that journey for me. If you're curious, BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched with a licensed therapist online. Go to betterhelp.com/loveready to get 10% off. That's betterhelp.com/loveready. Hello and welcome to the Real Love Ready series. We are filming today from Chicago. And I woke up this morning and I had a moment of just settling into what was going to happen today. And I started crying. And it was like full on happy tears and just going like, God, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. And I just felt like just full circle moment because today I'm going to be talking to one of my greatest teachers in this lifetime, Caroline Myss. And this is such an honor. We flew to Chicago to meet with Caroline. Now I get to share an hour with you. So my journey from learning from you, Caroline, started when I was maybe 20. So
here we go. You're going to age me, but you have at it.
28 years ago, right? When I read Sacred Contracts and Anatomy of the Spirit. I met first Anatomy of the Spirit and then Sacred Contracts. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like everything in my worldview, like it expanded. A lot of things just like had to go because I'm like, oh gosh, I thought that was true. It's not. And it's just like when I've realized is how the impact of your teachings have really shattered so many of the beliefs that I've had over the years.
Can you imagine what they did to mine?
Right?
I know.
So I know that this is divine, our coming together today.
Thank you.
I believe that this is a sacred contract, even just the hour that we have together. I've been having conversations about love and relationships and helping people build relational literacy. We've been doing this for 4 years. And we can't talk about how to be better in love and relationships without learning about our spirit, without having a relationship with our souls.
That's right. Why do you think that is?
Because we are souls. We're not, we are spiritual beings having the human experience, not the other way around.
Right.
There's so many of us that walk around as if like this human experience is the be all and end all. And it's like, actually you're the soul having this experience. So we can reframe our perspective and live our lives that way. The game changes.
Yeah.
Everything changes. You are the greatest teacher to be talking to us about this and educating us. So Caroline, I want to say thank you with my whole self.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. And a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah.
You know, you sometimes wonder why you do what you do in life. But honestly, it really means that much when you realize you've touched the life of someone.
Yeah. And
the gift you've just given me. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm going to read through the introduction that we have.
Okay.
And we're going to dive right into all the
Don't
questions.
bore me.
Caroline Myss once said that every word is a universe. That the words we choose carry energy, and that energy shapes our lives in ways we can barely comprehend. She was right, because her words changed mine. Sacred Contracts was the book that made me understand that the people I loved were not accidents, that my heartbreaks had a purpose, that love, real love, is a spiritual act. Today I get to do something I never thought I would do. Actually, it's not true because I have dreams and I make my dreams come true. So, I actually did.
Yeah.
I think this is a dream come true because I really wanted this to happen and we're making it happen. I get to sit across from one of my favorite authors in the world and ask her everything I have been dreaming of asking her. Every question I've carried since the first time I read her work. Caroline is a 5-time New York Times bestselling author, a medical intuitive, a mystic, and one of the most original thinkers alive on the subjects of healing, personal power, and the soul. She is direct, she is expansive, and she will tell you the truth, even when it is not the truth you came looking for. And it is one of my greatest privileges to welcome Caroline to this series today.
Robin, that was beautiful. Thank you. I hope I don't disappoint you in person.
You are not going to disappoint me.
That was incredibly kind. Thank you.
Thank you.
And let me just say, it is a pleasure and a gift of optimism to meet you and your crew and to see the contribution that you are determined to make in this world.
Yeah.
I just see you all as channels for grace. So it's magnificent.
Thank you. So you describe yourself as a medical intuitive and a mystic. For someone hearing these words for the first time, what do they actually mean?
Well, we'll start with medical intuitive. Yeah. You know, those words don't mean anything to anybody until, because first of all, I have a genius and no interest in it. And I have a passion and no talent. So that's how God made me. So I always wanted to be a great fiction author. I have no talent for it, but this is how clever heaven is. They put a carrot in front of you that gets you to make all the decisions you need to make. I never heard of medical intuition, but I was an incredibly well cared after human being by the invisible holy world growing up. I heard my angel. One time I saw my angel at the foot of my bed, and it never occurred to me, Robin, never occurred to me, ever, that there was something, quote, wrong with me. I thought, well, I am just so incredibly taken care of. And in that bubble, I formed my high-functioning reality, which is that the invisible world is more real than the physical. And I've never strayed from that. Yeah. Okay. So when I moved to New Hampshire to become in the publishing business, I moved not because I wanted to, but because I ran out of options. This is how God works. And everything that I wanted to do, I had finished graduate school, my graduate degree is in mystical theology, everything, which is a classical area of study. And I was fascinated with the power saints have and fascinating in healing. Yes. And the nuns that educated me and the Jesuits that educated me and their genius. I mean, now I'm going to get animated, but my first introduction to astrology was a Jesuit in a class, and he was making references to astrology. And of course, at that point, I thought astrology was like fortune telling, right? So I said to him after class, how could you, a Jesuit with 2 doctorates? And he said, I'll talk to you after you've studied this subject. It's an ancient science and it will long outlive you. Well, do you know what? I got home that day. I passed by a place that was on the street all the time, never noticed it. It was called the Astrologer's Medium. And I signed up for a class. But my life is filled with all of those kinds of things. So now I'm in New Hampshire. Yeah. I'm going to be an editor, but in my gut, I know I have no talent for it. And then my partner said, our neighbor Lisa's sick. And I was looking through a manuscript. And I just said, oh, she has leukemia. I just knew. I didn't even realize I knew. And she looked at me and she said, how do you know that? And I said, no, what? But Lisa. The long and the short of it is that the skill emerged as I was ready for it, but it fit into a relationship I had that had long been choreographed. Yeah. And so for me to have a skill that was by any means unconventional, it was multisensory. It never struck me as being unusual, ever. What struck me as being unusual and really quite horrifying was how frightened the adults were that I met in my life. How they lacked a capacity to have faith in anything. Yes. And as a result of that, the quality of decisions, and I didn't miss that. I saw it. And it all registered in this little brain that was really quite much older than my body. So I just logged in, and nothing felt as safe to me as the holy world that seemed to have its eyeball on everything.
Yes. I'm listening to you talk, Caroline, and I'm like, ever since I was a little girl, I was thinking about this morning when I was thinking, getting ready to see you. You say like, maybe you were 8 or 9 when you had your first, you saw. Like, was it 8 or 9 when you saw your?
7, 8, 9, somewhere in that area.
And so I think I was like grade 1, grade 2. I was very young, and I grew up Catholic. And of course, so I knew all the prayers. I knew how to say the rosary. Part of my first communion was about studying how to do the rosary properly, and I would go to bed, and it's like, I don't think a lot of little girls were actually going to their beds and doing the rosary, but Robin Ducharme was. And I was fervent with it. I was like, this is what I have to do. Mm-hmm. And, it wasn't just like I have to do, it was like, I want to do this. Want to. And something in that practice, every single night I would do the rosary, and then I would rock myself to sleep. And there was a communion with God. I mean, it must have been what was going on. And I was like, it wasn't even about the Bible. It was just like, I as a little person, I guess I was growing my intimate relationship with God and with angels, with Mary, I had relationship that a lot of people don't talk about.
It never occurred to me that there was anything unusual about everything that was unusual. But what struck me was how incredibly ordinary life struck me as a place I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go there. When I would say a prayer, it doesn't occur to me that heaven's not going to answer. Not the way I want it. It doesn't occur to me that I'm not listened to, that I'm not cared for. And how oftentimes I'll look at people and I realize they need grace, and I'll say, just send them some grace. And I keep going. I don't look back, and I just know how intimate. This world is deeply impersonal, make no mistake.
Deeply impersonal.
God is deeply impersonal, Robin. The universe was not created for you and me. The laws of the metaphysical laws, the laws of science, the laws of mysticism, cause and effect, it wasn't created for us. And yet, our use of those is deeply intimate.
Yes. So you spent years working alongside Harvard-trained neurosurgeon Dr. Norm Shealy. Yes. I mean, this relationship, I know the story because I've been, learning from you for 28 years. He would call you with nothing but a patient's name and age, and you would provide a full profile of their physical, psychological, emotional, and family history.
Right.
Why are we so still resistant to that relationship between Western medicine and spiritual intuition? And what are we missing by keeping them separate?
Well, this answer is probably not going to be very popular. But it's in my perception today, it's the truth. And I might answer it differently a year from now, but so far it hasn't changed. I think it comes down to our relationship with our conscience. Not our consciousness, honey, our conscience. That inner metronome that kicks in when we're about 7 that says, this is right, this is wrong, this is okay, this is not okay. That's organic divinity. That's your first kick at your intuition. And if you can anesthetize that in some way, that gives you access to dark choices. And it gives you permission to blame other people for why you do the bad things or the negative things that you do. It was my mother's fault, bad marriage, this, that, but, instead of saying, you know what, I wanted to. And we'll get to this when we're in relationship discussion.
Yeah.
But it all has to do with how conscious do you want to be about your actions.
Wow.
And that's all there's to it. And most people need their allegiance with darkness more than they realize.
They need it.
Yeah, they like it.
Yes.
Because if I ask why are people so afraid of the truth? We have a whistleblower archetype. We prosecute people that tell the truth in this country.
Yeah.
What the hell's wrong with us?
Yeah.
Right? Why is telling the truth the most horrible thing you can do when in fact, our soul is a truth-seeking missile?
Our soul is a
truth-seeking missile. And why do you think
missile.
in relationships people say things like, I can be myself. I don't have to lie. Think about how people have set it up. Because truth is this force that actually does change your world. And finally, I'm old enough now, I'll tell people the way it is that I see the world according to Caroline Garp. But Now when I'm writing this book I'm writing, and I'm going to have a section on health today, I think the leading cause of depression, anxiety, bipolar, etc., is that you have no balance with your intuitive system, how it directs you, and you've completely dismantled your metronome, your conscience,
Right.
so that you can just say and do it. Look at our world.
Yeah.
We are lied to constantly. Constantly. The news is nothing but lies. Politicians, nothing. And what do? We don't even get what a big deal that is. When in fact, our collective psyche is going.
Yeah.
But I want you to picture this. Your body is sitting in your soul. It's not your soul in your body. You're in this holy orbit, this sacred field. Ever since entering the nuclear age, our multi-senses have just exploded so that we can navigate the energy age, so that we can navigate the age of the soul, so that we can perceive, not just see, we can sense, not just hear. Mm-hmm. We are advancing because we're out of our league. The size of problems facing us, including relationships, have become based on this primate 5-sensory model. Where we tell ourselves that the boundaries of nations actually separate our problems. Are you brain dead? In a world full of pandemics, epidemics, this, that, and we have entered the vibrational era. There's no such thing as a national boundary that's going to protect a vibration. And so now we're getting infected. We have psychic infections and we are incapable of identifying them.
Wow.
Oy, oy, oy.
So let's talk about our intuition. There's talk about like the female intuition being stronger than the males, but really just what is our intuition? Like, is that the start of our intuition, Caroline? Like you said, our inner metronome? Mm-hmm. And
our gut response. And we may direct it differently, but there's no such thing as a female intuition that's stronger than male, except that we anticipate females are bonded to their young in a more, and I suspect there may be some truth to that.
Yeah.
That the whole birthing a human being, there's an umbilical cord that stays intact. So I do think there is something that mother's intuition is a force that maybe men don't sense. But let's be real clear here. It's an evolutionary sex reason. I mean, it's kind of like the way we think. Men are not emotional, not this or that. This is an economic model in which we've allocated the role of the heart to the female and the role of the mind and the war to the male. And we did that for survival, going back all the way to knighthood, going back all the way so that the women take care of the emotional world of the men, and women look like, well, if that's what it takes to survive, it works for me. And if we could get out of that nonsense, and maybe in this evolutionary move, as we move into the age of androgyny, which we are moving into, we will not live long enough to see this take off, but we are looking at the end of a very primitive allocation of human abilities, divided under the Piscean age, where the males get this and the females get this. That's coming to an end, and we're seeing that in relationships. The relationships are low functioning because we're still dealing with an old model. We still want the same security while wanting all the sensitivity. Why are so few men at my workshops when I'm such a brilliant teacher, which I am?
Yes.
Right?
And why is that?
I'll tell you.
Yes. Because that's true in Bloom, we do a large conference every year in Vancouver, and it's love and relationships. Every year we have more and more men coming, right? Which is great. Really, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's predominantly women.
Well, because there is an archetypal fear, and this goes back to conscience, that if my conscience is activated, if I acknowledge that my decisions have an impact on you, then I have to monitor my decisions in a more conscious way.
Yes.
Whereas I can't retreat into the adage, well, business is business. I can't use that anymore because now I have to get more conscious and know, actually, I want to make more money than you. So I don't care how this turns out. So what happens is most men don't make our way into these workshops until they're retired, until they feel they have a sufficient amount of money saved away that God can't get to, or they will tell themselves they're going because their wife dragged them, or they're feminine. They're in the feminine side of the spectrum.
So what you're saying is that it's about having to face their conscience.
And regulate how they make decisions and why.
Right.
So they can't use, well, everyone does it, it's business. What is the business of consciousness about? But becoming aware, wait a minute, actually, even if it wasn't business, I intend to cheat you. Look at how we do business, sweetie. We worry more about the person sitting across from us because we now assume they're dishonest. We now assume it. We now assume that my contracts and all this legal stuff is to manage your lack of integrity. Your lack of integrity. We assume that this is the world we live in. It's so poisonous. This is a psychic toxin. This is that we just assume that unless you have lawyers read it, have your lawyer read it, they're as crooked as a dog's hind leg. and have your lawyer read it, read it, because you assume. And if someone said, no, I just shook their hand, are you a fool? Are you crazy? You gave your word, and what's your word worth? Your word should be worth everything.
Yeah.
Why do you think we have so many mental disorders? Because we don't get that our word is our power.
Our word is our power.
That our word is every single thing that represents us.
Yeah.
Your word is sending your spirit out to do the task.
Really?
I breathe my word into this. I give you my word is giving you is saying my spirit's involved.
Beautiful. You've said that every relationship in our lives is a sacred contract, an agreement the soul made before we were born, that the people we love were chosen. That is a radical idea. And for me, it was a life-changing one. Sure was. So can you explain what a sacred contract actually is in the easiest way possible?
Well, I didn't come to that idea overnight. It came because, and I really credit being a medical intuitive for the beginning of my journey into kind of learning the rules of life. And so, as I say to my students, don't say, what's the purpose of my life? Say, what's the purpose of life and how do I fit in? Show me how life works and tell me what you want me to do. And so in doing readings, you realize I never knew we had a chakra system. I never knew we had any. I hate.
You were like, what is this? I have no idea. Like,
what the hell am I looking at? But the more, God takes fools and little children. The more that I so trusted my perceptual system that I thought, what is all this? What is this? What are these energetic patterns? What is it? And the more that I looked at all of that, the more that I would wonder, how did we get here? Everything I was taught about mysticism, everything I was taught about the order of the universe was insufficient. That's a shakaroo for someone like me. And if it's insufficient, I need to know. I need to know. And my prayers were like, download me. I'm talking to you.
Those were your prayers? Like, just give it to me.
Yeah. And I said, I need to know. I need to know. You can't keep this a secret from me. Just tell me in small bits, but I need to know. Yeah. Okay. So I get these downloads. And I said in a prayer, I can't bear to live a lie. I can't bear it. I can't breathe around a lie or a liar.
No.
I can't. It short circuits me. So the more that I looked, and with every reading I did, the more every human being became the most precious thing I ever encountered. And I am not kidding you, Robin. Every human being, a reading became the story they were living. Instead of trying to identify an illness, I now was energetically reading their story and their struggles and how every life was so extraordinarily pieced together. And I remember reaching a place where I thought, where did this start? Where did this start? I mean, do we have a choice before we incarnate? Because some of the readings over the course of time, I don't know, 10, 15,000, who knows? But only 4 of them, but still 4 is a number that I pay attention to. I felt, what is this stress pattern I'm picking up in you? And what I realized was that it was a life yet to be lived.
So you were seeing this in people?
Yes.
A lot of people?
A life, no, 4. Only
4.
A life yet to be lived. And I thought, yet to be lived. And then it started to make more sense that in the Kairos dimension, in the dimension of their soul, we don't have time. And so in timelessness, we have this is mystical consciousness where we can comprehend things that make no sense to our literal 5 sensory mind, which is full of nothing but propaganda anyway. So I began to wonder about the ingredients in our life and when did we choose? And do we participate somehow in the organization of a life path? And if so, how is that organization manifested once we're born? I finally came to the conclusion that we don't have choice in the same way you chose to wear a black dress and I chose to wear this funky scarf. It is a choice from our mystical awareness, which says the mystical part of you, the soul part of you, gets that it's choosing to fill in blanks, to repair things. Or if you are particularly gifted, you're choosing to give that thing to others, to be there in a way. And maybe like Nelson Mandela, it requires imprisonment. You don't choose imprisonment. You choose to make sure that this gift is delivered. And if it includes imprisonment, there you go. That made sense to me. And I realized those are contracts. Those are obligations. And what supports the obligation is our archetypal patterns, our given patterns that govern the parameters of our experiences. So for example, you have an entrepreneur and you have a teacher and you have a healer. You have certain archetypal patterns, but the one, like you don't have the clown or the juggler or the actor. And if you decided, you don't want a career in acting, there's no part of heaven that would stop you from going to Hollywood, from trying to get a contract, but it won't work. You'll have one obstacle after another because what an archetypal pattern is a mystical, mechanical thing that organizes the laws of the universe for us. And through that, because I'm obviously a teacher and I have a mystic and blah, 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 so long as I'm operating in my patterns, I know absolutely, because this is part of the contract, that the laws of the universe are working, are highly animated, cause and effect, action and reaction. It doesn't occur to me that what I need as a teacher won't be delivered because that's my contract. And I have been sicker than hell. I've had an active, what do you call that, gallbladder attack all the way across Australia. And I said, I'm here to teach. Help. And I would get on stage, the gallbladder attack would stop. And then as soon as I got off the stage, Ellen can verify this. When I arrived in Chicago, my doctor said, get over here to the hospital right away. First thing, I'm telling you, I have so much faith that if I said, will you help this person? But I know that I am never allowed to say how. And that's where contracts, you don't know what someone is under a contract for, but I will tell you, they are not physical things. Like, I have a contract for this job. If your gift and what you need to give requires you get that job, you'll get the job. But what comes first is your contract to give, teach, learn.
Yeah.
And so people think, can you be in a contract in a relationship, for example? If I hear soulmate again, I'm going to gag. But I'm the least romantic human being you will ever meet in your life.
Yeah.
Okay? But we are here to serve each other.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, in the wonder of heaven, that serving includes love you can't possibly ever experience in any other way.
Yeah.
And I think the way we should understand love, because it is such an extraordinary force, is that love is what God feels like to us while we are in the human form. We have no other way to experience love except with each other. So we have contracts to love each other, to discover what that love can do for each other. We are here, honestly, to make this journey from our love of power and stuff and things and junk to actually getting the power of love, to make the transition from our love of power to the power of love and realize every time I act from love, something good comes from it.
Yes.
Take your hands off the steering wheel. Do not ever tell heaven how to answer prayers. Just say, get down here. I need some help. You have no idea how many times I've said the prayer, give me some badass grace because I am feeling not in a good mood.
Yeah.
And I'll say to heaven, I don't want to hurt anybody because I'm really pissed.
Yeah.
I'm having a bad day.
Yeah. Help me see this differently.
Yeah. Just do something, anesthetize me, but I don't want to hurt anyone. What heaven looks for.
That's good.
What heaven looks for. I even said one time, I said a prayer, it was so powerful. I knew I needed to forgive someone. I don't have much on my forgiveness list. Thank you, God, for that. But I did. And my inability to forgive is legion. I actually bled to death. Top that, right? That's how angry and resentful I was.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm never going there again. Never. Never. So I said a prayer. And if you say never, you better mean never. Right? Don't use it unless you mean it. So it's one of the power words. So I said in my prayer, I can't forgive this person yet. I am just raging with resentment. So I'll tell you what, God, I want you to do this. You take the heat off this. I don't want any of this resentment to get to that person.
Aww.
But I'm too weak to let it go.
Right.
So you and we got to work out a compromise because I do not want to hurt that person. That's how powerful every one of our thoughts are.
Yes.
Do you know what the next day it was gone? I should have known that prayer earlier.
You know what? I love that story because I know the power of prayer. I pray throughout my whole life. Mm-hmm. And I know I'm changed because of it. I'm given the grace of God because I didn't do it. Mm-hmm. Like, I sure as heck didn't. God did it, and that is just the power of that. Mm-hmm. Amazing.
There is nothing about this physical world that is appealing to me as how I know the invisible world.
Yes.
Nothing. There is absolutely nothing.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
The way I feel like I know that, I don't see things move. I don't hear things move. But my God, I know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm past needing to know that. But the comfort I feel, like I walk my dog at night. I say a rosary when I walk my dog.
Yeah.
And I'll say to myself, I want to walk in the company of angels tonight. I don't need to see you. I don't need to hear, but I know you're there.
Yeah. You know what you said before, Caroline, just around, just having faith, having trust, knowing. I'm in that place now in our work. And I've really felt it so strong, absolutely, in the past year and a half. Mm-hmm. Like this work, like I just know that this is the right path. Like this is contracted, whatever, however we would say it. But we have been so taken care of by all the invisible forces, this whole trip, for instance. Mm-hmm. And I just have no doubt that we're being held on this. So.
Well, Anna, you tell me what inspired you to do work in relationships. I'm going to put the shoe on the other foot. I'm going to interview you.
When I first started, like in the love business, I started out as a matchmaker.
What?
I did. And it started out
You
as...
gotta brace me for an answer like
Yeah.
that.
I've
never met a matchmaker.
Yeah. I'm no longer one, but I was. And it started out as this gift that I wanted to give my best friend, Kirsten. And she was like, I said, she was moving to my city. And she was like, Robin, can you help me find a good guy? I was like, absolutely.
Good luck with that. But
And so it started out as this, I really wanted to help her, you know? I mean, I love her. She's one of my sisters, you know? And it was like, and I started interviewing men and asking all my friends and family.
And you said, look, I am interviewing you for my best friend.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that I would pay money to watch. Go ahead.
Yeah. So anyways, that's how it started. It started out as something that what I realized it was...
Did it work?
You know what? It didn't. But I introduced her to probably 15 men over like a 3-year time. But it changed her life. She became a Christian. She started down her path of being like a missionary for many years, and now she's
you blew it for
like really no. But I'm like it really changed her life. I mean, I kind of took my hands off the wheel after a while. It's just like I am not like whatever this is. It is. She's not married to this day, but that wasn't how it was supposed to be. You know?
Precisely.
Yeah.
She didn't have a contract. You know, just to show you how contract. Have you ever taken an ad out to meet a best friend?
No.
Would it even occur to you?
No.
Right. And so here's what's true. If I look at my own life, I've never had to take an ad out to meet a business partner, a best friend, Norm Shealy.
Yeah.
My beloved Norm Shealy. No. When the time was right, heaven sends it because it's a contract. It's a sacred contract. Okay? So it never occurred to me to take out an ad to meet a human being because I'm never lonely, but it's just too preposterous because it's, you know what that's like saying for me, but this is me, not you. It's like saying to God, you screwed up. So I have to do it on my own. Instead of saying, am I ready for a relationship? And I was told when I was 8 that I would not marry in this lifetime.
Wow.
I actually heard it. My angel told me. And in those early days when I would hear guidance directly, what I realized, especially because I'm writing this book, is that, and I'm telling the story of all of this, that direct audio guidance for me occurred when I absolutely needed to hear something.
Yeah.
Or I was in trouble and I didn't know it.
Yes.
Okay. And I've learned from this because as I got older and as my relationship with God matured, and as I began to see the presence of God in everything, I don't need, the audio doesn't happen anymore. It's more of you got to plug into a more mature, refined system in which you begin to expand your understanding of God and see it everywhere, including in relationships, including how you meet relationships. I think this is a very rocky era for human relationships, Robin.
It really is.
Right.
People want to have good relationships, I think. First of all, it's a human need to connect deeply with each other, with ourselves, you know? Love is that. Like having loving relationships is like, you know, this is the reason why there's fairy tales and movies about it, but it's very toxic in the way that we're taught how to love. We're not taught the skills and like the consciousness, the awareness that we need to slow down and just like, who am I with right now? You know? And what is my heart saying?
But I also think that I think there's so much about relationships that we don't get, that we have multiple levels of motivation. And one of the motivations is survival. And that's a level we're not often honest about. And another level is that we have fantasy. Now, survival and fantasy don't like each other, okay? And then the archetype of marriage itself is an archetypal pattern that once you step into it through actually getting married, it automatically changes the psychic energetic patterns between you two to where you were dating because you were attractive and cute and you're flattered. But the moment you engage that archetype, all of a sudden, you look at him and say survival. You didn't say that before you were married, but you say it now. And it changes your sense of responsibility and what it means to be taken care of and the need to, it awakens all of the shadow part of being taken care of. And you think, well, I'm marrying this person because he's a sophisticated da-da-da-da, only to find out he's a weak person. You didn't see that because your fantasy, and you didn't see that in you. I think relationships are challenging because we forget that the job of being we are unaware that the job of being in a relationship is really discovering how difficult love is. And have you got what it takes to go the distance, including, I think, loving yourself enough to make decisions for yourself where you realize, I don't have what it takes to love this kind of thing, but I have what it takes to love this. And it's nobody was born with a contract to understand you. Nobody was born with a contract to take care of you. I think we need to be very realistic about what we expect from another person.
Right. I'd like to take a moment to tell you about BetterHelp, who makes this show possible as our sponsor. I've been in and out of therapy at different points in my life, especially during the hardest and most challenging times in my life. And there's something about sitting with someone you can trust, who is truly objective, someone whose whole job is to help you understand yourself better. And what I've learned because of the great therapy I've received is priceless. I think a lot about that in the context of what we talk about on this show. So much of our patterns in love come from things we haven't fully examined yet. Therapy is one of the best tools I know of for that kind of examination. BetterHelp is a service that connects you with a licensed therapist online. You fill out a short questionnaire and you get matched. And if it's not the right fit, you can switch anytime. It's designed to be flexible and to actually fit your life. If something in this episode stirred something in you, I gently encourage you to take a look at it. Go to betterhelp.com/loveready and you'll get 10% off. That's betterhelp.com/loveready. How can we recognize when a sacred contract is reaching completion, especially when love is still present?
You can't. Well, you know what? That's not true. Have you ever felt that's enough? I'm not doing this anymore.
Actually, I went through, like you talk about audible messages. I've been receiving those since I was little. And when I heard this message, and I'm like, God, heart, soul, whatever it is, it's clear as day. And I was married to my first husband at the time. And what I heard was, your marriage is over. Clear as day. And when I heard it, I was shocked. Like it was one of those, earth-shattering messages. I didn't want to hear it, Caroline. It was the last thing I wanted to hear. And I was like, that can't be right. It cannot be right. And I said to God, my soul, I'm like, I know what I heard. I can't unhear it. Yeah. And so I said, what do I do? And what I was invited to do was, just observe your life. Just be in observer mode. Robin, you don't have to do a darn thing right now. Just observe. And I felt like for a good month, I was able to kind of be above my life and observe it in a different way that I wasn't seeing before. Mm-hmm. And I started seeing what I was told, And when I finally settled into it, I was like, okay, so yes, that was an example of me being like, this contract of husband and wife is coming to an end.
That's right.
Even though I loved my husband very deeply. That love is still there. It's just
but
not
that archetypal pattern. We've concluded this, and we can move on from here.
Okay, yeah.
And one of the indicators is that you can't animate anything anymore. You can't fake animation. You don't have what it takes. You can't animate yourself sexually, emotionally.
You're right.
There is no animation. It's cut. So another way to understand this is heaven's cut off your energy supply. So none of the laws are going to work. You can show up You can sleep with your husband. You can make him dinner, but you are going to feel like this is the most draining thing because now you are actually utilizing the energy in your cell tissue because the universe isn't supplying any prana.
Oh my.
It's so fascinating. I'm telling you, the way heaven works
Yes.
has me on the edge of my seat.
It does. So what you're saying, Caroline, is that the life force, right? That because we think like our life force is just physical. It's not. Of course not. So when you can you describe animation when we're not
Yeah.
animated?
Animation, you're excited.
Yeah.
Excitement's animation. When you get an idea, like when I get an idea as I'm working on this book, and I feel like, oh, yeah, I can't wait to write this, and it's falling into place. The idea has been animated for me.
Right.
If someone suggested I write a book on trucks,
Yeah.
watch what happens, right? You know what?
Yeah.
This is so, I wish I could teach people this and I wish they would get it. Oh my God, I wish they would get it. When I was a publisher, our publishing company, my first two partners went through a divorce. As a result of that divorce, we were financially strapped. As a result of that, we couldn't put out an autumn list for, I don't remember, 1985 or 6 or whatever it was. And that's death for a little bitty publishing company. But what they could do was pre-sell, like publishing companies often do, the spring list. So my partner said, go and write that book you were talking about, because I'd begun working with Norm Shealy. And I sat down at my desk in my little farmhouse and I heard no. And I actually could feel a cord coming out of the back of my back.
Oh.
All right? I felt it. And I knew that I wouldn't be supplied any of the angelic support I'd come to rely on since I was a child, since I incarnated. And I would show up for work at my desk, and I could not, look how loquacious I am. I don't have a problem finding what word goes after another. I stared at the ground. I would write half sentences thinking, well, I'll think of the rest of that sentence later.
Right.
Who does that? I would get up and go to the kitchen in the farmhouse, which was downstairs. And then as soon as I was away from my computer, the ideas seemed to be, more cogent. And I would write them on napkins, just get up there, and I was blank. I felt at the end of that it was as if I had announced that I was pregnant, ended up in the delivery room, but I'd never been pregnant.
Oh.
And I realized the pregnancies for me come from God. I have to, unless that I'm given something, unless I'm given a download, unless I'm given it, there's no way I'll say yes. And when it is, I assume the supply. I was in my kitchen in my townhouse one time. These crazy stories, right? And all of a sudden, I hear, you don't pray enough. And I looked, it was so loud.
Yeah.
I turned around and I looked and I said, who's talking to me? And then I knew I was getting a divine,
Yeah.
All right, so I'm mystic enough to know that when heaven packs a punch, it's like a horrible pill that you take and it just keeps unfolding. I knew what I was being told. You're going to need to pray.
Yeah.
Your life is going to change. We are turning off the electricity on everything you've been doing, and you have to go in this direction. All of that was packed in that punch. I'm not stupid. I know how an angel delivers a punch. So I'm in my kitchen, and part of me is absolutely ecstatic.
Because part of you is like,
I'm
okay,
this was like too cool. And then I thought, shit, am I in trouble? Right, sorry.
Right.
But I knew that they were going to turn the lights out. That when I would go to teach sacred contracts, the genius I had for picking someone's archetype, for sensing someone, for being present, that was them. And they weren't going to be there. And so I said a prayer right then and I said, all right, I hear you. I'll do exactly what you're asking, but I'm going to ask a favor. I have 2 more sacred contracts workshops. Please be there for me.
Mm.
And in that moment, I felt completely animated again. That's how I work. But every human being works like this. This is how heaven reaches you. And it's certainly how heaven reaches people in relationships. Because I want to bring it back to your topic, because what you're doing is so valuable and so important. And I think that if people could relate knowing, I've also brought my soul into this relationship,
Yes.
it would change the dynamics of the quality of choices they made, Robin.
Mm-hmm.
The quality of choices. Like, one of the heartaches in relationships is people feel like they can't forgive, and how often the people in my workshops, well, I said I was sorry. And I'm like, okay. Because you didn't bring your soul into it, which is this. In every your angel talks to you nonstop. And I don't care if you're an atheist, agnostic, or a Martian.
Mm-hmm.
I do not care. Don't bore me with your beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Because the truth is, your angel is assigned to you and communicates. And there's no such thing as a God with a religion.
Nope.
You want a religion, have one, but you don't need it. And the role of the angel is to guide you, not make your decisions, but to try and send an animation on behalf of something courageous, powerful, or transformational. And when we are about to do something stupid, when we're about to actually use our conscious life force to make a choice to hurt somebody, you're going to hear from your angel. And your angel's going to say, you want to do that? You really want to do it? Not going to say don't, but we'll say, do you really want to do that? You sure? Or what they will do is they will animate something. They will remind you of a choice you made in the past that was very similar and based on some selfish motive. So let's just say, yeah, I really do want to do this. And I know that Robin's going to end up paying a price for it, but I don't care because I want that chair. So now it's time for apology. I'll say, you know what? I really didn't mean to take your chair. I had no idea it would hurt you. And I can't figure out why you won't let me off the hook because I apologized. But the truth is, I'm using the wrong language and I'm not being honest. I should have said, you know what, Robin? I was told ahead of time that this was the wrong thing to do. I was told, I knew it. And I chose otherwise because I put my needs first. And so I directed my life force to hurt your life force. This isn't an apology. Here's the word we need. I've sinned against you. I've sinned. I've used my conscious life force to deliberately hurt you. And that's considered a sin in the cosmos because our life force is God. So we're directing our creative power of the sacred on a destructive mission.
Right.
And we pay a price for that. And that's called karma.
Yep. Wow. That's the way to describe karma right there.
But it's also the level of relating. Where you realize it's not just my body and mind that are sitting here in this relationship. I've also brought my soul. As a matter of fact, I'm sitting in it. And if my soul doesn't get the right coordinates from your soul, this isn't going to work. And you can tell yourself it will. You can say, oh, well, geez, we just get along and da-da-da-da. I'm telling you right now that the components you need to understand to make a relationship take are so deep.
Yes. So let's go there.
Okay. Well, the one is, first of all, you have to, what does it mean if you acknowledge that I am actually in a soul bubble?
Yeah.
That my life is as spiritual as it is physical, which means, what am I really doing here? Am I here to accumulate? Is life a shopping cart? Is that what you think life is? Because if you do, heaven will sit back and say, go ahead, get anything you want. But don't ask us for help in certain ways. See if your stuff will get you out. Or is it, what kind of spiritual adventure can we have while in the physical? Think about that. What kind of spiritual adventure? how can we live and discover everything we have to give the world together? How can we make this world a better place? And it may mean you go to law school, you go this or that, but you are there with the intention that the greatest thing I can do is serve humanity with my life and have a legion of angels standing behind me. And I believe that's the greatest thing you can do with your life.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can help you with your life and your mind, we're on the same path. That makes it work.
That is sacred.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I feel that way with my partnership with Hector. And we were very deliberate, very intentional with how our language around, like, what do you want in your next relationship? And we both wanted, the deepest love, the most expansive love that we've ever experienced with another, with an intimate partner, and to grow. And, he found this symbol of, like, the square root sign.
Yeah.
And with a heart under it. He was hiking the El Camino Trail in Spain. And it's like love broken down. How do you break down love into different components? But when, I believe that it's exponential. It's like, it's like when you're with somebody, when you share that and you are doing that, you're creating that love together, I feel like it's like, the sky's the limit, And
you really need to play by the mystical rules. Like, for example, human beings are insecure creatures, right?
Yeah.
And when a partner says, I've come home and I've decided to study blah, 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 I've decided to do yoga, I've decided to be a vegetarian, often the partner will go, oh my God, you're changing. I'm not controlling this change. I have no influence in this change. How could you? You should have come in and warned me I'm about to change, right? But instead, you decide to go over to the spiritual, mystical truths, which is, what do I have? What kind of skills and power and grace, operative word grace, do I have that would help him empower himself? Because I can't stop it. So he's actually, if you could hear it symbolically, he's actually come home and said, I need to become more empowered. And the way it's manifesting is I've developed an appetite for yoga.
Right.
But what you really know is I need to discover more about something inside of me. And so all of a sudden I have ideas about cooking organically.
Mm-hmm.
You recognize what's actually going on at the conscious, cosmic level. And you say, okay, well, let me participate in how to empower you here. Now you got a bond.
Oh, love this. This is the best conversation ever. Can we talk about, let's go into Woundology.
All right.
Why we don't heal. Can you explain Woundology? This is your term. This is like, okay.
I know, it's a real
what is
word
it? Where
now.
does it come from and how you recognized it?
I was at Finhorn in Scotland, which is a place I love dearly.
Yeah.
I'm meeting a friend for lunch. I'm sitting at a dining room table in what was then Cluny, their hotel where they put guests. And I was sitting there with two gentlemen who had come to Finhorn from Germany. And I just met them. I mean, they were just passing through Finhorn. And while I was sitting there, the woman I was meeting for lunch, who was a Finhorn resident, walks up to the table just as a guy named Eric, who ran Finhorn, walked up. And these two have a chat in front of us. Now, Diane didn't know these guys. Didn't know, yeah. And he said, are you free June 8th? Helen Caldicott's coming. We need someone to escort her around the Finhorn community. All he wanted was a yes or no. No, I'm not free. Yes, I am. That's it.
Yeah.
But instead, she launches into, did you say June 8th? June 8th? Are you kidding me? That's an incest supporters group. And out of her drips this anger. And we don't disappoint each other. And we meet there. And he was like this. And he just walked away because he was used to her drama.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm watching this and I'm thinking, what are you thinking? Revealing your most intimate wounds. First of all, to me, but you could because I've known you. But to these gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized it was her way of saying, I'm in charge of this table. I have more significant wounds. You have to speak to me in a certain way. You have to treat me in a certain way because I have these wounds. And I saw the power of wounds being used as street currency for the first time.
Wow. Over
lunch, I said, I got to ask you a question. Why did you have to let them know about your personal history? It has no bearing on anything. Mm-hmm. And she said, because I am incest survivor. So what I asked her and what she answered were two different things.
Right.
And I realized she had no intention of ever releasing that wound.
And people have a choice in that, right? But she's made a conscious choice that I know people like this. You want to hold on to those wounds. It's something. It's a power move.
It's a street currency. Yeah.
Okay.
How often someone comes back home, they've got a bad day at work. I've had a bad day at work. They're screaming, yelling. And you're like, what are you yelling at me for?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, your mate says, well, I've had a bad day at work. And you apologize to him. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Next thing you know, you're apologizing for his bad day and saying, well, go ahead and beat me up. Or you do that to someone. We love passing on our pain as if it should never have come to our life in the first place.
Right. Wow. Okay, so we're living in a cultural moment where being wounded is almost celebrated, right?
Almost?
Well, it is celebrated, right?
There
Like
you
our
go.
trauma, talking about our trauma. And I understand we've all, like, people are going through trauma, right?
Life is trauma. It's never not going to be. It wouldn't be so traumatic if we thought life was, if we got the rules. Life is not fair. It is not just. It is not even, and it is not easy. It never will be. If you get that out of your head, you'll stop being so damn traumatized. People were not born in this world to take care of you. People were not born in this world to make sure that you don't have to make the decisions you contracted for. We have such a naive view of what the purpose of life is that we've traumatized ourselves.
Yes.
And believe me, I mean, I look at the abusive child trafficking, the monsters that are in this world. But all those monsters arise out of our inability to be truthful, our inability to make the kinds of decisions to protect human beings, because we're not in the business of protection, we're in the business of money. If we actually were honest about how choices were allocated, from whether we go to war, or whether we cover up the Epstein files, or whatever it is we do, we worship the God of money on this planet.
The power.
And power. And until we change that, because we actually think, you know, I look at the relationship of money and power. And when you have a little money, you don't have any power. But as soon as, how do you measure whether or not you have power? How do human beings measure that? You know what they do? The more power, the more money they accumulate, eventually what happens, and it's archetypal and it happens to everybody and nobody's an exception. They begin to think they finally have enough money so that they do not have to follow the rules. That's why they follow the rules, so they don't have to. So the next thing you know, I don't have to wait in line. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. Right, because I have the money. Next thing you know, they start breaking more and more rules. Next thing you know, the most humiliating thing in the world for someone with money is to follow the rules. It humiliates them.
Wow.
Look at the legal system. They don't have to follow the rules.
Yeah. Wow.
You're not really surprised.
No. Okay, I want to talk about choice because this is really important. Obviously, this whole conversation is mind-blowing. Yes. Everything we've talked about today comes down to one thing, choice. You've said that choice is the most fundamental power of the human experience. That every choice we make either enhances the spirit or drains it. Let's talk about what it actually means to choose healing.
Well, you know, these are really such simple matters. Make a choice. Do you feel good about it or not? Does it make you worry? Does it increase your stress? Or do you feel like it's the best I can do? Or I feel really good. That's all you have to pay attention to. Did I use grace or did I withhold it? That's all you got to ask yourself. Every single moment of our life is an opportunity to either use grace or to withhold it. Even as something so simple as whether you're kind to the people you meet, whether you're demanding or kind. You're withholding grace. They're trying to do their best. Why would you hurt somebody?
Right.
Right? So it really is truly about, how do I manage grace? That's all you got to tell yourself, is every day is the management of grace. When I walk down the street, I now actually really do this. I make it a practice to say hi. I mean, I don't care if they say hi or me, but I know what I am obliged to do.
Yes.
And I bless them.
Mhm.
And a blessing is like light, is a higher frequency of holy light that is sent to you immediately. And you might think, no, because it may be just that amount of light that allows you to animate your survival intuition, and suddenly you don't make a stupid choice.
So let's talk about how we use our vocabulary to heal or to harm us. You have an exercise with your students, and you on your TED Talk, I love this, where you ask people to remove a word from their vocabulary
That they can never use again.
They never, word never. I don't think I could remove it because you just used it. And I'm like, that's a good, perfect place to put the word never.
Right.
So in doing
See how powerful that word is?
Right.
Because then you'd say, do you do this often? Do you do this always? Well, how often do you do this? Right? It's a whole reality.
Yeah.
A world is contained in each of our words.
So can you give us, I hope that people that are watching or listening to this will do this exercise. So tell us about that. And also, what's a word that you can't tell me.
No. A
word that you've removed.
But you start to consciously limit the use or delete them.
So I've heard this years and years and years ago. And one of the words that I decided was deserve.
Oof.
Oh, man.
Right?
Because that word.
Not dessert. Keep dessert.
Yeah.
But deserve.
Deserve. And so tell us about the word deserve. Because people use it. I'm like, no.
I hear it all the time. When I hear them talking about these kids deserve, these people deserve. What is that? Who are you talking to? Who is running the scales of justice?
Mm-hmm.
Where you think, why do they deserve that? What you've just said in that one word is, we want to live outside the ordinary dynamic of cause and effect, the ordinary dynamic of creation, so that what happens within the content of life, all the bad or what we consider bad or painful, doesn't come to us at all. Because we want to measure our superiority over life and death by putting us in this category. All of that's contained in that word.
Universe in one word.
Right. And I've said, like someone says, let's go stop for ice cream. I deserve it. I said, why? I've had a bad day. I said, so what if you had a good day?
Yeah.
I said, why don't you just say, I want some ice cream?
Mm-hmm.
And knock off this game you play with yourself. And the same is with blame. Oh, I blame this and I blame that. What do you know? It's like the reason I don't do readings anymore at all, ever, is because eventually the lens that I had for the universe, for how I understand what makes you you, first of all, that lens is so tiny, but even in its tininess, it's bigger than I can comprehend. Mm-hmm. And so while human beings still do basic primal mathematics, for every one bad thing, there's got to be one resolution. That's not how creation works. Not at all. The thing you could be experiencing this way could be a combination of a million choices you've made through 10,000 lives.
Right.
You don't get it. But when I started to get it, I said, I'm not touching this anymore.
It's way bigger.
Because it's way bigger, because I don't know what I'm talking. I can't do a math. I can't convert this to ordinary speak. So the idea of blaming says, I know exactly how this came out. You don't know anything. You don't know anything. And what drives me crazy is I've said to people, like when I'm teaching, and I'm a history freak. I love history. I live, eat, drink, breathe history. And how many people don't know anything about the history of the events we are now living. Mm-hmm. And as I've said to so many people in my workshops, I want you to tell me all about yourself, but leave out your history, because you think history is so unimportant. Leave it out. Doesn't matter. And so tell me all about yourself, but you can't tell me anything about your history. What are they going to say? They can't, well, I like Italian food. I mean, they can't say anything because they don't get that history is this. And if you understand history, you can't use the word blame. You have to see it as a higher function of human evolution.
Yeah.
Everything playing out. It's better to look at everything as like when I look at the world today, which is probably a great place to wind down our interview. As I look at the world today, I think that this is the most extraordinary time in human history to be alive, and I mean that. Secondly, I think it's a real privilege to be alive now. Third, I think that we are waking up we are moving our center of gravity from outside of ourselves to inside. Fourth, we now have competing intelligences that we have to work into our human consciousness. We have AI, we have extraterrestrial, we have mystical intelligence, psychic intelligence, and we have nature intelligence. Now, these four systems of consciousness have never been used in the recipes made on Earth. So what we're going to discover is that we don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That in fact, we've never been alone. That our way of resolving problems is so unbelievably primitive. And if anything should humiliate us or humble us, it should actually be that we are so out of our league in terms of, we can't even deal with a virus without making it political. We are primates. So I think we're in for a tremendous little smack on the tuchus. A real because we don't listen.
Humility. We need humility.
Yeah, because we think we created the universe. And we've got to get back into and take off our shoes on sacred ground.
Wow. Can we, before we close, can we please talk about, you say when like lying, like liars don't heal. When I heard you say that, I was like, that makes, can we talk about that? Just when you are not in your integrity, when you're dishonest, when you are lying, let's say you're living a lie, like many people are walking around living a lie, full on. So, and then you think drinking wheatgrass and,
and
all the things.
Wheatgrass and kale is going to balance you from being a dishonest human being. I don't think so.
So can you talk to us about that?
Well, I mean, we have entered into an evolutionary era in our own design. The challenges facing the human community to survive, including becoming a species incapable of celebrating its own destruction and nuclear weapons. Oh, look what we've got. We are so stupid that we think we should celebrate our capacity to kill each other. We are so stupid.
Yeah.
I can't even hold it. My anger is so deep at this. All the things we do not know that we think is an accomplishment. In the meantime, in order for us to actually survive ourselves and our stupidity and our arrogance, I think the universe pushed us on an evolutionary leap. I really do. And I think that's why we've expanded to be multi-sensory. Now, what does that mean? It means we're opening up the capacity to sense and perceive, be a medical intuitive, to be able to navigate the holy world alongside with the physical world. Now, that's a big deal. And it means that you are shifting your relationship to how you understand truth. So that for kids, is it true that you picked up the glass or not? That's how they measure truth and lies. Action. But as you become a perceptual being, you are perceiving truth within a person. You perceive deception. You perceive this. You are able to sense things. Now, if you lie, what you are doing is or if you become really a greedy SOB, your whole motivation is to have more, do more, and harm others. In order to function, you have to actually consciously turn down that highly evolving sensory system that's meant to direct you in your relationship to truth in life.
So you're anesthetizing it.
You are compromising it. And in order to compromise it, because heaven will not let you forget you have compromised that. It will not. In order for you to live with what you've done to yourself, this act of profound self-betrayal, you have to make up false narratives. You have to blame someone else for your actions, your mother, your bad marriage, your father, your this. You will make up narratives, and you require enemies in your life, adversaries, in order to let yourself off the hook instead of saying, I am compromising my intuitive system. I don't want to feel this because I want to be able to make these decisions. Okay? That's what a big deal lying is. It's a big, huge, big deal.
And your body is going to pay the price. Right? You're not going to heal. Like you say, liars don't.
It's not just your body, honey.
No.
It's your whole psychic equilibrium. Because now you can, and if you, like, people come and and they'll think, I don't know why I'm depressed. I don't know why I'm this, I'm that. I'm like, have you checked the integrity of your psychic field? It doesn't occur to you that maybe part of your problem is guilt and integrity, that you're incapable of making strong decisions with yourself or the right ones, that you've had to lie about something to yourself so often that it's become your everyday narrative, but you really can't live with it. It doesn't occur to us that most of our suffering, depression, anxiety, all of that is actually rooted in psychic disorders.
Wow. Yeah.
Soul illnesses. They're spiritual crises.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm doing a program now on truly, it's called home base, returning to home base, spiritual direction. So that I recognize this.
Yeah.
And so I'm teaching on how to come back to home base.
Oh, that's beautiful. Awesome. Great. We're going to be promoting that. So before we end, I always ask our guests these two questions. What is one myth about love that we have to unlearn?
That lasts forever.
You mean with one person?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that your soulmate is the person who loves you the most. No, it's the person that recognizes your soul the most. And that could be the greatest adversary you ever meet.
Ooh.
How about it? Want me to tell you a nighttime story? Yeah. No. I mean, think about it. From heaven's not in the business of romance. Heaven's not a matchmaker that way.
No.
It's in the business of consciousness.
Business of consciousness.
And really, when like people look at these, romantics, oh, look, the incredible couple, and they're gone in 2 weeks. Because they don't get that the role is to show you why loving is so difficult. And if you're in a relationship where you expect the other person to compensate for tasks you're meant to do, oh, I'm so insecure, I promise you the relationship will end. The rules have changed. We're in the business of becoming conscious. And if you're in a relationship and you are thwarting that, it's going to go away.
Yes.
Yes.
So what is love? What is your definition of love?
I don't have one.
Yeah.
I don't. I really don't. I don't have it. How can you fit love into a definition?
I love what you said before around love is what we feel. Like that is what God feels like.
I think
that is what God feels like.
Which is why love feels like nothing else. And which is why the absence of love is so terrifying. Which is why when someone stops loving us and realize that it's a watered down, it's a highly diluted version of what they think love is. But when that's diluted, even that has the power to destroy you if someone says, I don't love you anymore. And if someone says, my God, I love you. The power, what it is a God force, which is why they love me, right? It is literally resurrection. It is that because life is the experience of using the power of God. How do I explain this to people? Everything in creation is a manifestation of God. There is only light, love, and law. That's it. That's what God is. There is no off-planet man. It's light, love, and law. And that force is the substance of everything. You can call it energy, but eventually if your light goes on, you'll think of it as grace. And you'll think, I am here to use this. And God is in everything. God is not like, oh, there's little molecules. No, you idiot. This is made of earth substance. It's made, and earth is the largest creature you'll ever meet. And you start treating all of nature and all of life as this extraordinary journey into the power of God. This is what you look like. This is where you're. You're everywhere and in everything. And my job, and the task you've given me for this life, as long as I have it, is to tread on sacred ground and to make sure that I illuminate as many people as I can about how extraordinarily powerful you are, and that in using love and in sharing love and in making loving choices, you are actually, if you could see it, you would see heaven just deluging light upon you.
Yes. Wow. Caroline Myss. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm pouring love on you right now from my heart to you. Like this has been so incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been fun.
It's been amazing.
I feel very animated.
Me too.
Follow us at Real Love Ready and at Soulprint Media Co. on social media, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. The Real Love Ready series is a Soulprint Media production, presented by BetterHelp, hosted by me, Robin Ducharme. Executive producers are Robin Ducharme, John Kim, Tara Malhotra-Feinberg, Hilary Swanson. Produced by Miriam Debbie Talbot, Tara Malhotra-Feinberg. Directed by Miriam Debbie Talbot. Edited by Susie Landers O'Connell.